Hello, I'm very happy to be here in this part of the world, really far from where I come from, Peru, in Latin America. Some people ask me where, Peru. What I want to speak about is the structural roots of unwanted adolescent, and I'm underlying unwanted adolescent pregnancy in the world, in my region, and some examples from Peru. This is not a scientific study. It's the result of 37 years working in this issue. I've done research, I've done theory, and I've been an activist. So it's kind of a wrap-up, because I'm very much worried that after almost 4 decades working in this issue, it hasn't changed much throughout the world, not in Peru. Anywhere in the world, adolescent pregnancy is not changing, despite our efforts, while other indicators of women's health, including unwanted pregnancy, are getting better. In the case of adolescents, it's not changing. So after working with government, with the United Nations, with NGOs and the academy, I started thinking, what's happening? Why it's not working? So this is what I want to share with you. One thing you can see here is that in all regions of the world, there is from the 90s to the new millennium, the statistics on adolescent pregnancy got a little bit better, but then they stalled. Nothing has happened in these last 14 years. So what's going on? We know now that we have 2 million adolescent mothers every year, and that every year 54,000 newborns come to this world to mothers younger than 15 years, not 15 years of age. We also know that Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, is the worst region in adolescent pregnancy, and Latin America is the second. So for me it's very... Also we have countries like Peru, but also Colombia, Dominican Republic, Mozambique, Philippines, Turkey, and Yemen are the worst in the world in these indicators in terms of not getting better. The UN General Secretary in 2010 said we have very terrible figures, especially sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America, that double any other country. So what's going on in our countries? What can explain what's happening? My contention is that the problem is not in the adolescents, it's in ourselves, in the adult world. I believe the problem with adolescent pregnancy is that we don't recognize the rights of adolescents, the rights to health, to education, to information, to services. And this is the consequence. We have 90% of the 208 million pregnancies every year in the developing world, and 86 million pregnancies every year are not intended, are not the result of a woman or a couple wanting to have a child. What happens with these persons, what happens with these motherhoods and with the children they bring to this world? We all know very well how children are mistreated, are abused, are traded, and are exploited, and are subject to all kinds of problems when they are not wanted. And I believe the problem is not in the... I talked to the Minister of Health. The problem is not going to be solved by the Minister of Health or the Minister of Education. It's a much broader problem, more structural problem. It has to do with cultural factors, with values, with norms, also with religions. It has to do with how we see sexuality. And it has to do with a very hot word, sexual rights. I think the problem comes if we are to recognize that women have rights. One of those rights are those related to sexuality. Maybe we recognize sexual rights for women, but we do not recognize sexual rights for adolescent women or adolescent children, girl child. This is a very sensitive topic. I've been in UN meetings for 10 years representing my country on this issue, and I've had long arguments with people from Africa, from Iran, from Bolivia, discussing these topics and saying that, for example, in their countries there is no adolescent pregnancy. And I said, but we have the statistics. And they say, no, because when an adolescent gets married, is pregnant, we get her married, then she's an adult, even if she's 12 years old. So this is an example of how we deal with the problem. For me, what's underlying here, you can see the world recognizes maternal health as an issue. We have it as one of the objectives of the Millennium Development Goals. This is the only goal that is not getting better 15 years after its approval. In 2000, we said these are the goals we want to achieve 2015, 1 year from today. And the only goal that we are not going to achieve at all is making better reproductive health for women. And one of the indicators of getting better maternal health for women is adolescent pregnancy. This is one of the issues that is not getting better. I have it in red. You can see maternal, how you have birth in my country. The fact that this is happening is not because we are poor. We are not poor. This has to do with political will, with resource allocation, and the fact that women are not valued, especially if you're indigenous, you're poor, you're rural, you're illiterate, then all your rights simply don't exist. Okay, so everybody knows it's a problem. We realize something has to be done. We understand that an adolescent unwanted pregnancy will affect education, training for work, and opportunities, economic opportunities in the future. So it's not only a problem of the adolescent, but of the couple, if she has a couple and stays with her, of the family, the community, and the country. So the UN has drafted a resolution in 2012 stressing the need to recognize the rights of adolescents to education, information, and services so as to protect their reproductive health and sexual health. It urges governments to take a stand in this issue and to prioritize universal access to sexual and reproductive rights. I just want to, if you're not in this field, I just want to have a very strong point here. We all talk about the universal right to health. Everybody has a right to health. But if you're an adolescent girl and health is concerning sexuality, then it's not your right. So we cut rights. Okay? We recognize the right for an adult woman or a married woman to self-determine herself in terms of her sexuality, but if it's an adolescent girl, we recognize no rights at all. For example, in my country, for many years, 7 years, we had a law up to 2013 saying that any sexual relation with an adolescent was rape, even if it's a consensual sexual relationship between an adolescent and an adult, a young adult, or another adolescent. What happened with this law is that people working in the sector of health didn't want to attend to give counseling or services or treatment to an adolescent girl having sexual relationships because he was fostering crime. And people giving sexual education in the ministry stopped giving it because they were promoting a criminal activity, sexual activity in adolescents. So it had a terrible cost, and it didn't protect anybody. We have had global consultations, even in not far from here, Bangladesh, and all the governments agreed on what had to be done, the Dhaka Declaration, what had to be done. We have it all written down. It's not that we don't know, it's that we don't want to do it. So who's going to be held accountable for maternal deaths, adolescent maternal deaths due to unsafe birth or unsafe abortion, which is a consequence of unwanted pregnancy, actually, and accounts for one of the main reasons for death, at least in my country, of girls 15 to 19. Who's going to be held accountable for violence against women? Because we're not talking about adolescents getting pregnant out of passion or out of love. Many adolescents get pregnant out of violence, gender violence, rape, even the parents' rape. So who's going to be held accountable for this? One problem we have with adolescent sexuality is, and I think I'm going to offend some people here, I hope I offend some people here, because maybe it makes us think about things, is the adolescents have the sexuality is least accepted. The worst part to be accepted is where you have monotheist religions. So Judaism, Christianism, Muslim, when there is only one, my country, every policy, social policy, health policy, education policy, has to be approved by religious leaders. And they do not approve of sexual education and reproductive health services for adolescent people. Their way of preventing adolescent pregnancy is abstinence until marriage, which doesn't, of course, work. One of the things I want to stress, because of the title of the conference, is diversity. In my country and in many countries, if you have the resources, you will have access to whatever you need, even safe abortion. I'm very, very hard-spoken here. In my country, you can have whatever you want, emergency contraception, if you can buy it. But if you don't have the money, then you're at risk of unsafe abortion, of low-quality birth. So diversity also expresses in death risk for adolescents, because if you are rural and poor, then your chances are an unwanted pregnancy can end very badly. These adolescents that cannot control their reproduction, and poverty is not the cause. It's very important, it has a lot to do, but it doesn't explain the situation. Because with poor women, if they are adult, we can better their situation. But if they're adolescent, no. So it's not just a matter of being poor. It's a matter of the society around not wanting adolescents to be able to have sexual activity and not become pregnant and have a risk. There's many examples here in Kenya and Bangladesh, Uttar Pradesh, on what can be done. I just want to end saying, for us it's very important to stress the idea that we are all humans and have rights. And this doesn't exclude and discriminate you because of age or poverty or education. So it's a violent world. Violence is not only rape, violence is also education, like Madala says, but violence is also women not being in politics enough to be able to defend their rights. So this is what I wanted to bring, and to ground the idea that psychology is political. Whatever we do impacts on people's life. So we can help them have a better life and health and citizenship, or we can do nothing about it and keep on seeing things happening and not touching our everyday work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, I don't know your place. I don't, the people, the mentality of, in my idea, sexual objectification is a major factor that leads to violence against women. I have kept such a kind of thing in my mind. And self-disciplining the people from the childhood itself, and developing respect towards women among the youngsters can reduce this problem, as per I feel. I don't know it's right or wrong, I don't know.
When you speak of sexual rights can mean no. I mean, sexual right doesn't mean that you have sexual activity. It means that you self-determine how you want to express or not express your sexuality. So it's also a way of talking about respect. Respect can be interpreted in many ways. When we talk about sexual rights, we talk about sexual health, not becoming sick or in risk of any kind of danger, violence, or death because of the way you're living your sexuality. It's not a rule for anybody to do or not do anything. It's whatever you do, you have the right to be protected so that nothing bad happens to you. That's the idea of sexual rights.